right. Well, yep, here we are. Here we are. Here we are. Here we are. We're live. We're live. We're live. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good afternoon. And good evening.
Yes, wherever you happen to be.
That's right. If you're here in the Midwest, it's good morning. If you're west of us in the Midwest, it's good morning.
Earlier.
And if it's way down south on the other side of the equator, it's I hope you have a nice Friday.
Yes.
On there. And if it's like overseas in some of our spots and places and people that we know, it's good afternoon or good evening.
Yes.
And if it's on the East Coast, hi and good afternoon.
We're just glad you're here. So I'm Kim Spillers.
And I'm Frank Spillers.
And this is Cece, the Wooka Raccoon, for those of you who haven't met Cece yet. This is our mascot who joins us and helps keep us on track.
On track to welcome, understand, comfort, and appreciate yourself and others.
So this is an exciting day. We have our first guest, and we're going to jump right in to talk to Clarke Gerlock. Let me give you just a little bit of background about how we got connected to Clarke, and we're going to bring him on here. And Clarke, Frank and I live in Cass County, Iowa. It's in the southwest corner of the state, and Clarke is a wonderful county member. He lives in another town, and he'll tell us a little bit about that here pretty soon. In 2005, the small towns of Cass County were just really hungry. I would think would be a good word. They were hungry for involvement. They were hungry for attention. They were hungry to be noticed. They were hungry to do something about their communities. And so Clarke was part of a lot of processes that we did here in Cass County to help involve the small communities around the county seat town of Atlantic, where we happen to live. So Clarke, why don't you, tell us a little bit about yourself. I'd love to hear how you connected with what we were doing in 2005 in Cass County. So everybody, welcome Clarke Gerlock. Yay!
Yay!
Well, thanks, Frank and Kim. Frank and Kim have become very dear friends of mine. But just as an introduction to myself, I am a farmer in southwest Iowa in Cass County. Grew up in the little town of Cumberland. A whole whopping, I think it was probably around 250 people at the 2000 census. And that was kind of the environment I grew up in, lived here all but I believe 6 months of my life. And I farm here in a family farming operation. I still farm with my grandfather and my sister, her husband, and we get along pretty well on a family farm. That's been in the family, I believe, 125 or 6 years now. So it's kind of a big honor to be here, to be part of this.
Absolutely.
You don't look that old.
Well, getting deceived.
But that's a wonderful heritage.
It is.
Generation after generation after generation of loving that land.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But also, I'm married to my lovely wife, Rebecca. We have
fabulous.
8 children. Yes, you did hear that right. If you're in shock, ages ranging from 13 down to 8 months. Ellen, Megan, Jacob, Bethany, Henry, Silas, Abram, and Nellie. They are healthy, wonderful, and ornery children. So I don't know what that means other than sleepless nights in the future.
Yes.
But no, that's just kind of an introduction of where I am. I guess I do have a couple of rental houses that it was hard to buy land, and I had good years of farming, and I thought I should probably reinvest a little bit, which has opened the door to so many new relationships and things like that as well. But as far as, how I came to know Frank and Kim, my family has been very involved in community and business and different boards over the years. And when I grew up in that environment, it was clear that I needed to follow suit and also to participate and benefit the communities that I grew up in. Specifically, though, for Frank and Kim and the Pride organization, I grew up after I was married, I lived in the town of Cumberland, not in the country, but I decided I should probably do my part and ran for city council and was able to get on. And that's when Frank and Kim and some other people from the organization introduced themselves, and I thought, well, this might be one of the first organizations I can involve myself in.
So
And
we're I'm gonna interrupt you just for a second. I apologize. I should have mentioned the organization that came out of that hunger that formed from those small towns. So for those of you who heard the word PRIDE organization, that is the acronym for the Progressive Rural Iowa Development Enterprise. Call it PRIDE for short, obviously, because that's a long name. We formed a 501c3 community development organization that focuses on education. And so we can receive grants for community improvement, for projects, things like that. So when Clarke talks about PRIDE, or I talk about PRIDE, or Frank does, that's the organization the small towns around the county seat formed, and it is still an active organization. So with that, Clarke, that was a great family history. Thank you. So if you could continue and talk about how you became involved when those activities started, please.
Well, it's kind of like drinking from a fire hose at first.
Yes.
The acronyms were brutal. I had no idea what people were talking about, and I was sitting right next to them, living in the same community, but I got to know not only the people, but some of the surrounding organizations that they served on. And, you know, early on, it was mostly just trying to figure out how I can participate with these, I'll call them wonderful giants of volunteerism.
Yeah.
And I was just this little kid, you know, I suppose I was 22, 3, maybe something like
It
that.
makes a difference. So you guys were so dynamic. We just loved having the youth involved. That's what we want, is get those young people involved.
It was great. And we learned so much, especially that first couple of years of just how people volunteer, people that I'd heard the names before, didn't know who they were, formed a lot of really good relationships, some friends that, you know, relationships that have been maintained ever since. And, you know, through that, we were able to, you know, really, I think, have a good impact in our community. And just as an encouragement, if nothing else, for people to think about their communities outside of the box that we like to put ourselves in. So,
can you tell us a little bit more about that outside the box? What did you experience through the processes, and can you tell us a little bit about those processes? What happened, and what did you learn from them?
You bet.
From them, there were more than one.
Yes, there's quite a few of us. So, you know, so much of it was, I thought I knew just about everything there was to know about Cass County. I've been here my whole life, driven probably every back road, every highway, knew a lot of people. I wrestled and participated in sports. So, I mean, I interacted with a lot of different families and people growing up. And yet I didn't realize how much deeper, how many more resources and people and things the county could offer. In fact, one example of this is even today, I met a machinist that was a part of this, you know, 12 years ago, whenever it was.
Really?
And I still use him to this day on some things. I called him just an hour ago, had a problem, and I knew he'd fix it for me. And so, I mean, you get to know the businesses, you get to know the families, you get to know some of those little less known places that have incredible history. And some of them I knew about, some of them I didn't know about. So, I mean, just getting to know what surrounds us in a much more close setting was really valuable, both business wise, relationally, and you know, just being able to know the available resources and skill sets. So,
Clarke, how what's the population of Cumberland, the town that you lived in, but now you live by? What's that population?
Yeah, once we moved out, the population dropped considerably. No, I believe it was around 250 back then. I think it's settled maybe around 225 people. That's not okay. That's 225.
Yep. And just for folks out there, Cass County is a county of just under 14,000 people. So 13,000 and some change.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yes, exactly. So the process that Clarke is referencing for getting to know about the county and visit with other people and such, we will talk about in future episodes, but just to name it, it's called Community Builders. And Frank and a colleague helped to develop that actually in Nebraska early in his career. It is an extremely successful, powerful, because of the reasons that Clarke mentioned, and I want to pursue that in just a minute. But it is just a really powerful process that is fun and collaborative. Can you talk a little bit more about what kinds of things we did in Community Builders, please?
Yeah, you bet. Well, a couple of the things I remember well was the Cass County Museum, for example, in Griswold, Iowa. We toured some of these places, and that was amazing. And then some of the amazing woodworking talent of some of the people outside of that area, and and to actually be hands-on in location touring it. And it was an incredible experience to be able to do that. And when it got around to Cumberland's turn, I'm like, well, what do we have to offer? And I thought, we have a world-class Abraham Lincoln impersonator just lived down the road from me, a good friend of mine, a master carpenter that did some amazing work also. And I'm like, you think of these things as common, and they're really exceptional. And we were able to bring them in and showcase some little things of our town. And it's a humble little town, but nonetheless, when you really step back and look at it and start digging in below just what you think is common, you find a lot of exceptional people and exceptional things.
Absolutely. What other activities? What other activities built relationships do you remember through our time together working with the small towns?
Yeah, well, collectively we were able to work on some housing grants, and I know in Cumberland, I believe two of our homes had some major work put into them, and that came through. Really the working together of the small towns through this pride organization, the Progressive Rural Iowa Development Enterprise. And we were able to forge relationships with the Southwest Iowa Planning Council and really did some good things for our community. Helped out some people, helped out our communities and appearances and things like that too. And so that was a lot of it. Some of it was bringing in some outside of the area people, talking on tourism, agribusiness, just some out of the box thinking that really spurred a lot of thought in my mind on, just creative options that might help either diversify the farming income or just being able to think differently on ways that we can benefit our communities. One of these things was how do we draw rural people into our small rural communities? And, being in the landlord business, I say that loosely. I'm a farmer. I tell people that.
That's okay.
I'm not nearly mean enough to be a landlord, but it just got me thinking. And there was an opportunity that I probably could have missed if it wasn't for this group of people and small towns getting together and talking about these things, and formed a wonderful relationship with a family from Massachusetts. And, it may have happened without it. I don't know. But I tell you, it sure helped my thinking, being able to approach that and see it as opportunity instead of risk. And through that, I have a wonderful relationship with this family and great friends that benefited our town, our church, a lot of different things. And, that's just one example of how this worked out. But, another thing is we started inviting some legislators. And, I knew who our state representatives were, of course, federally and state and local, but I didn't really know them at all. But when you see them face to face and you have dialogues with them, not only during the meeting, but after the meetings, then you start to understand who they are beyond just the seat that you're voting for. And you can form relationships, you can express concerns very easily, and it feels like your words aren't just empty, and it feels like they know that they can build those relationships with their constituency as well. So.
There's two things I want to follow up on there. So the family that you referenced, can you talk a little bit more? Let me give just a teeny bit of the backstory. One of the community builders components is education. Like I said, it's a 501c3 that's based on education. So we had actually Clarke's brother, Heath Gerlock, is just an absolutely marvelous tech expert. And Iowa has this phenomenal system of locally owned telephone companies. Mm-hmm. So the summer preceding Clarke connecting with this Massachusetts family, we had focused on connectivity for internet. It was kind of just an emerging phenomenon for residential areas and for smaller communities. And because Iowa has this fabulous system, we have 5 small independent plus 2 larger internet connections, internet businesses. So Clarke was able, through our education at the community builders programs, through the different community meetings that we held, to learn about the connectivity that you had there in Cumberland. So can you run with that then, please, and talk about how you connected to the family?
Yeah. So, basically, as Kim said, we have just a locally owned cooperative for a telephone company, fiber to the home. As fast as you want it, you can get it. Wonderful service, wonderful people. And it's really just a part of our community. They've been phenomenal at giving back as well. And the Cumberland Telephone Company, that is. Just wonderful, wonderful people, wonderful company. But because we had good internet access, that made it possible for this family to move here. They do a lot of remote work, computer type stuff. I won't even butcher the job that he does.
But he was a global software developer at that time.
It's a teleworker. Yeah.
He's a teleworker. Yep. And what was he looking to do when
he was looking for just a nice rural place to live? And somehow he came across Cumberland, Iowa, which is, that would have to be an act of God, honestly. This is just beyond all reason. But nonetheless, everything lined up, and he came out for a visit, and I let him drive a tractor. And he loved it, and loved the people that he met. And anyway, it worked out great. But one of the fundamental things here was that he could do work from home with good, reliable internet. And at the time, I guess it was still good, but now we have fiber to the home, and it's just incredible. So, and that's pretty much the whole county is wired up fiber now, I believe. So
we have amazing opportunities here. Yes.
Yes. So, but anyway, through that, they were able to be confident that they could do the job here, and they were. So
the other point I'd like to follow up on that you brought up that was phenomenal is connecting with our legislators.
You bet.
So can you talk a little bit about that process? It's called deliberative dialogue.
Yeah.
And can you talk about how that helped you maybe shift your mind a little bit?
Yeah. So, typical way that you would see, I'll call them politicians. I think our guys are better than that. But, you hear them talk a little bit, and that's about it. But what we would do is we would set it up not with them up in the front and everything aimed at them, but we would, and some of this is because we didn't have, hundreds or thousands of people to come, but we'd have very good turnouts for our area. And we'd set up the seats so that we could face each other. And then it was more of a conversation that we could have with them, not just talking points, not just things like that, but it was a real, genuine conversation, and everybody seemed to let their guards down a little bit, and and just speak freely, a lot more than feeling belittled by the position of sitting down from them or things like this. But it was a wonderful way to do it. And I mean, I would say it would be very comparable to just meeting them in a store and having a conversation with them, as opposed to having them with a group of 20 people that are curious on what they have to say about state events. So it was, and we've done this, I mean, for quite a few years.
We have since 2006, probably.
Yeah.
This is the way. For those of you who aren't aware, your representatives and senators, they will come to your district, and you know how they hold meetings. As far as I know, we're the only ones in the state who offer legislative coffees this way. We sit in circles, as Clarke just described, and that way we face each other, because we're all people the same way. We just have different jobs. And so what Clarke, I think, is indicating is that it's a more familiar kind of setting. It's more equal footing, and it just really works well. And our legislators love it. I think that they really feel it's just different than they are used to in other legislative settings. Yeah. And I think that they feel very much more connected to their constituents the way we do our legislative coffees in Cass County. So what did you see happen, especially related to relationships, because of the deliberative dialogue process and the community builders process? What did you see throughout Cass County?
You know, when you can talk about things freely and comfortably, you talk about a lot more, and you talk a lot about a lot more topics, and you talk at length a lot easier, and then you're willing to maybe give out a little more what you're thinking versus just what you should feel like you should say. And but you know, it's been I don't know, easier to express the ideas. And I'm trying to think of a good example here. I'm pulling a blank, but you know, it's easier to get the dialogue through. It's easier to express yourself, and through that you can form better relationships, better connections, and like with this machinist that I needed help with. Right. You know, it's easier to call on them when you need something, and can benefit them, and they can benefit you. So there's just a lot more, I guess, positive interactions.
Well, and along to that point, what we did discover is that there were a number of businesses, because we live in between Des Moines and Council Bluffs, Omaha. There were people who were going to the cities, you know, because you have to go to the cities. Yep. To be able to maybe access supplies and things like that. And community builders helped us discover that we have a lot of the needs here in the county. We just didn't know about it until we started talking to each other. Mm-hmm. And so business to business development and increasing people's income, businesses' income. Do you think that's a fair thing to say that was an outcome of community builders?
Yeah. You know, more of my money stays in the county due to that. There's no doubt about it.
That's just phenomenal. We've been doing this process for quite a while here. What do you think is kind of your most important takeaway as we head toward a close here?
You bet. You know, it's just with the current events and everything else, just the value of good relationships. And that's something that, you know, I've always tried to take very serious. And, you know, even if there's differences of the way we think and things like that, the systems to be able to communicate well and freely, such as community builders really promoted, is just very vital to a healthy community, and really even not just to the community, but to our families, our churches, and you know, just the whole county. So you know, the takeaway is, you know, whether it's formal or not formal or whatever, it's just make sure you're paying attention to what's right next door to you, because it's easy to miss, and build those relationships, because honestly, you don't know when you're going to need them. So you just as well build them beforehand, and then it makes it a lot easier and seamless when you do.
Gosh, do we have time for that great story he was telling us earlier about?
Real quick.
Okay, remember that story you were telling us about your tenant?
Oh yeah.
Can you share that real quickly, please?
You bet. In the landlord business, I've had, I think it's probably close to 30 different tenants over the years. And almost every one of them has been wonderful. I've had a couple sour apples, but it was just amiable to separate. But a number of years ago, I had a fella from a big city that had a larger family, and by all intents and purposes, just as a landlord, I should have looked at it and said, this isn't a good idea. Of course, like I said, I'm not a landlord. I'm more of a farmer. So he had a big family. I thought this is going to be okay. And so we brought him out, and I was raised in a wonderful, loving home, and he wasn't necessarily very different upbringings, but yet it's amazing once you get to know people how similar that we think, and we look a little different, we act a little different, we express ourselves a little different, but fundamentally there's amazing similarities between us. And we can really appreciate each other, and show a lot of respect both ways. And he's become a good friend, a great tenant, and a wonderful family. So, and a lot of that's just, that's between me and him. But really, that's kind of what Community Builders did. Is it breaks down those barriers. It says even though we're different communities, so we're different people, fundamentally, we have so much in common that we're working for the same goals. So, I don't know. Is that pretty good summary of what I was talking about?
Absolutely phenomenal. Yes. We just knew you had so much to share, Clarke, from your experiences, and we so value you as a friend and a county fellow county member. So I'm sure that we're going to be having you back. And I think we'll be talking to Rebecca too. So you just tell her somewhere in the future after harvest.
You bet. Yeah, that would be bad.
After harvest. And so we wish you a bountiful bringing in the sheaves. Yes. So thanks so much for being here. Yeah. We appreciate it so much. Thanks for being our first guest.
You bet, Kim and Frank.
Hug up all of those family members for us.
Will do. Take care, guys.
Thanks so much. Take care.
Thanks, Clarke.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
That's Clarke Gerlock is really a great friend. It's a great example of building relationships and where we need to go in our first pillar of creating community prosperity. It's one step in moving forward to building great community, great organizations, great businesses. It's just, you get to know people, get to know them on their level, and all of a sudden, then you all start to find commonalities. You don't look for differences, you'll look for commonalities. We call it finding common ground, even in building those relationships. Next week, we're going to dig a lot deeper into community engagement and engagement in activities and deliberative dialogue, and how to talk through those wicked issues. And we'll go a little bit more into that tomorrow as I introduce the topic for the third week already. Wow, this is great. This is great. But remember, the pillars are relationships, engagement, entrepreneurship, and collaboration. Those four pillars create an opportunity for community prosperity. Those are our four pillars to community prosperity. And it's all about creating the environment to where people want to live in your community, want to be involved in your business, want to be involved in your organization. It's creating that environment to where people feel comfortable and they feel welcome and they have a sense of belonging to where they want to be. It's not rocket science. It's strictly human interaction, and it's leadership. It's collaborative leadership of how people work together, not just getting projects done. So we hope you'll come back. We hope you'll join us Monday through Friday on Rural Community Solutions. And if there's anything that you have suggestions for, here's our email address: Frank at Kim.
Okay.
Frank@ghorizons.com or
Kim@ghorizons.com. And I do want to give you a little plug for next Thursday's interview. It's going to be super exciting. Follow up to the piece that Clarke was talking about legislators and connecting that way. We will have Bruce Feustel, who is retired from the, 39 years. He was with the National Conference of State Legislatures. It's the umbrella organization for all of our state governments. And so we'll talk more about that, but he's going to be our guest next Thursday, and he'll talk about engagement.
So as you look at your community and you are a leader, as you might not think of yourself as a leader, but think of it as this definition: as a leader is someone that wants something and is willing to take responsibility. And if you look back at our earlier shows, responsibility is you have the ability to respond in any way. So you take responsibility in your response, and you take that responsibility for creating it in a way that builds other people up. We all need to be leaders. We all need to be collaborative leaders, because that builds people up. You can't have a leader that tears people down all the time and expect people to want to be led by that person. A leader, a collaborative leader, looks at people, builds them up, finds their potential, and moves them forward. It's creating a relationship that people want to have that will attract other people because they see what's going on. They say, I want to be a part of that. So if you're looking to grow your organization, your business, or your community, this is the way that you can build that environment to where people want to belong. And so go to the YouTube channel, Rural Community Solutions TV, subscribe, hit that subscribe button, comment below if you want, and we'd love to hear from you. What did you think about the interview today? What did you think about building relationships? Come back tomorrow and we'll have a community wrap up. We'll have a relationship wrap up.
Relationship week. Kind of like it's Shark Week. This is relationship week.
Dun, 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 dun. And
No,
we're not gonna.
Baby shark.
There you go. There's your song for the day. Now you can go away going, baby shark, duck, 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 duck. Mama shark, duck, 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 duck.
Time to let these people go.
I know it. Okay. It's been a great time. Thank you all for coming and tuning in. We hope that you will tune in more. I'm Frank Spillers.
And I'm Kim Spillers.
And this is
Cece,
the Wooka Raccoon, to welcome, understand, comfort, and appreciate yourself and others.
So have a great day. Go and do something that helps your community become a family-friendly, youth-centered place. Bye.